That's right, still on the electronic cigarette. I'm a non-smoker now continually since the 1st of July 2009. Apart from, and I confess to this, one 4-day smoking relapse on Golden, Virginia, rolling tobacco, and after like 6 months of me just using the electronic cigarette rather than smoking tobacco, the tobacco tasted foul, so I was glad to get back off it again. Seriously. Anyway, that's not what I want to talk about today. I've been given a request to talk about spirit guides. Now, one of the things you may have noticed about me as a person who's in the New Age industry, so to speak, obviously I am a professional tarot reader, that's what I do for a living, is that I do a lot of videos which aren't just going on very positively about angels and fairies and spirit guides and the astral energies and all the rest of that. I hope that you can see that there is, to the most part, a distinct difference between the way I present on this particular YouTube channel and the way that I present on the Nick Dutch Tarot channel. I hope that you can see that, because there's a difference between performance art and an individual who's sitting down like I am now, talking relatively informally about what I consider to be the truth or the facts about various matters. One phrase I use once in a while is "we don't know," and that goes with everything, including life after death, angels, archangels, gods, spirits, demons, and the rest of it. My point of view is that all these strange experiences can happen and do happen, and it must therefore have some kind of value to seek out and try and investigate these strange experiences and see what we can try and do with them constructively, if there is something constructive that we can do with them. But essentially precisely what can actually happen as a result of using them, it's still open to a certain quantity of conjecture and of course anecdotal evidence, and anecdotal evidence is not quite enough for the proper scientist, so to speak. But it still has an importance if we're using a more anti-positivistic means of investigation. But what about spirit guides? Do they exist? How the hell am I supposed to know? Seriously, I know, I'm a professional tarot reader, but how the hell am I supposed to know? When I was about 19, I went and did my first ever psychic fair. I did that, I got myself a pack of tarot cards, I had a kit of runestones, and shoved them in the back pannier of my little 49cc moped, and I drove to a local town, and I did a psychic fair. Now, I'm 35 years old now, you can tell it was quite a long time ago. And, you know, I did the fair, and it was an interesting experience. When I was setting up, I went round all the stalls. I saw one lady there. She didn't have a customer in front of her, and she was sitting there swinging a pendulum forward and backward. And I said, "Wow, that's a really cool pendulum. What are you doing?" She says, "I'm talking to my spirit guides." And even then, with me being someone who is proposing to potentially start a career as a professional tarot reader, I had the old, eyebrows scraping the ceiling moment. Because I would say that, just as I thought then, I think now, we can't actually say whether these things actually exist or not. So I said to her, you really believe in these things? And she says, "I think we all have them if we're just open to them." That statement, just like supernatural experiences or apparently supernatural experiences, actually asks more questions in its own right rather than providing any answers. Just because she happened to have a belief, does that mean to say that these spirit guides objectively existed? No. What it means is she's got a belief, and she thinks, whether rightly or wrongly, that the movements of the pendulum bob swinging forward and backward, it was a very beautiful pendulum bob, but it was still just a sphere of glass on the end of a string, was actually giving her answers. Now, I would say that under some circumstances, you can train your mind to either affect your body through the ideomotor effect, or to train your mind so that it appears you're talking to another entity. But whether this entity is actually outside of yourself or not, it's almost impossible to be able to say. And yes, prayerful and meditative techniques do seem to be the way in which one can reach a state of mind in which this particular symptom can happen. Is that proof that they are real? No, it isn't. Are these things useful? If you're looking for hard and fast, solid, concrete, reliable evidence, basically no, they're not. Well, what's the point? Well, the point is it's fun, it's interesting, it might give you another point of view, or it might be that you yourself somewhere inside your own brain already has another opinion or another point of view, and maybe, just maybe, hypothetically, this is a way of accessing some ideas that you yourself have got somewhere inside your own mind. Do the spirit guides exist? I don't know. And if anyone is truly honest, and I mean truly honest, they would have to say that they don't know either. But there are some people who want to become the equivalent of Bible literalists in the New Age movement. Then they say, oh, these things do exist, yes. Oh, yes, yes. By what evidence can they say this? That they're so sure that they can give a black and white yes-no answer? Well, they have personal experience. Yeah, well, so what? I've had personal experiences of demons, angels, archangels, gods, spirits of the dead. I've seen ghosts. Does it mean to say that any of these things exist? No, it doesn't. Why? Because I've got an education and I know that that's not enough proof. It's a personal experience. There are instances in which there does seem to be some kind of like cross-mind or quasi-telepathic instance happening. But how that happens, I haven't the foggiest idea. On whether that did actually happen, and I wasn't just making a mistake, I'm not sure about either. The thing to do is to try and carry on experimenting with it and exploring it through personal experience to see how much further you can get. So, can I sit here and say that spirit guides exist? Well, if I was to try and be the kind of person who was to try and like convert you to some form of New Age religion, then I would be the kind of person who would sit here and say, yes, they exist. Could I do that knowing what it means to be a thinking person? No, I can't. Not at all. Not under any circumstances. And I'll be being, I think the word is disingenuous, if I was to turn around to you and say, yes, these things do truly exist. Well, I'll basically be being a liar. And I'll be being a liar because I know that there's a certain limitation to personal experience. And if you can't see that by now, then you've got a long way to go. I'm sorry, but you have. It's just like saying the power of prayer works. There's people who are in the pagan communities who say that prayer doesn't work, but ritual magic, or essentially praying to the goddess, does. What's the difference? Intellectually, in terms of the argument itself, what is the difference? Nothing. And some of these pagans say that I know it works because I know that my God is real. Well, that's just the same as the Christian argument. So, please come to me with a new argument about this. Come on. I'm interested. There is a debate going on right now, and that's between people who can think and people who choose to believe. And if New Age ideas and New Age religion is just going to be there for people who just want to be just believers, I will find it very hard to consider myself a part of this movement. Surely we should be trying to find the truth, seeking the truth somehow. And being a person who is trying to seek the truth does not mean to say that you're in possession of the truth. And part of the process of finding out about the way the world works is finding out about how to think about experiences and how to discuss, debate, and explain and explore ideas. So, if you're going to come to me with saying like, well, what do you think of spirit guides? I'm going to have to say to you, just like anything else, I have not got enough proof as to whether they exist or not. And if I was to turn around to you and say that yes, I do have enough evidence, I would be lying. they, whatever they are, seem to appear or exist under some circumstances, but we can't say for sure as to whether that is within the mind or not within the mind. And when the quasi-telepathic experiences seem to happen, they're fascinating. But experiences are only a proof that you can have an experience. And not a lot more. Nick Dutch signing out for now before I run out of time.